This is what happened in the last 24 hours in Palestine. Inside of Gaza City this morning, the occupation positioned armored personnel carriers filled with explosives right outside of people's homes. And then they blew them up.
Oh, the Israeli military just detonated a report in another street.
Children covered in blood arrived to the Baptist hospital from these strikes and their fire. Martyrs were transported on the hoods of vehicles from a Sheikh Radwan bridge. A group of civilians had been targeted by the occupation. This martyr's brains dripped to the stone beneath him. Civil defense spent the morning collecting martyrs from homes bombed by the occupation. Children, much too small for a body bag. At the same time, outside of Al-Quds, quadcopters opened fire. At least 14 people were injured in the area, from quadcopter shooting and dropping stun grenades found all across the hospital grounds. There were 6 martyrs, 2 of which were children in Al-Tufa. This mother says goodbye to her son. And then came the strikes on Al-Shati refugee camp. Elderly men covered in blood. The occupation had targeted the Asalmiya family. This young boy is covered in lacerations on an already bloody cot. Ubaida Abu Salamiya, 14 years old. His father was just 5 steps behind him, and now he's being pulled from the rubble of his family home. But he was rescued without his father, and all he can do is sit with his grief in the back of an ambulance. Dr. Muhammad Abu Salamiya is the director of Ashifa Medical Complex. He lost his brother and his children after the occupation targeted them in their home. This little girl with blood dripping down her face. Quadcopters dropped bombs on civilians, and while volunteers tried to transport them with civilian vehicles, they ran out of gas, a commodity the occupation barely allows in. When the occupation targeted Hamid Junction, it was a massacre. Bodies thrown every which way within the streets. Traumatic amputations and puddles of blood. Injuries hold their finger up in Tawheed, while the martyrs are stacked against the wall. There were 6 amputations at Al-Shifa today, and the floor is covered in blood. And then came the strikes on Al-Sabra. The occupation had targeted the Degmesh, Al-Haddad, and Abu Mohsen families. Martyrs were carried to the overflow area outside of Al-Shifa. Children injured in the attacks taken to the overflow tent for treatment. 3-year-old Emil just lost both of her parents. She's in too much shock to speak. Children covered in severe burns from the occupation's strikes on these homes. Babies, like Sama'i Dakhmesh, 10 months old with burns over 40% of his body. The radius and ulna of his right arm fractured, as well as the femur of his left leg. And the bombs keep falling as the occupation detonates their armored personnel carriers, martyring infants with their mothers, and destroying families in the process. This mother here holds on to her only daughter in Al-Shifa. They martyr a nurse, Ashraf Mohammed Abu Mohsen. 24 others were killed alongside him in Al-Sabra, with dozens more that remain under the rubble. The body bags stretch around the corner of the overflow tent outside of the walls of Al-Shifa Hospital, because the morgue was already full, and the medical workers are speaking out.
Every half an hour to an hour, we have another mass casualty that arrives in huge numbers because of the whole building is destroyed on top of patients. The staff are exhausted. We're run out of the basic equipment in the hospital.
Equipment that Sami needs desperately to survive, alternating between trauma sleep and screaming. But even with the medical equipment they so desperately need, he won't make it without a medical evacuation. Meanwhile, the occupation continues to drop bombs on Gaza, every day making dozens more like him.